Some of them sailed off and never came back. Others turned up in rivers, ravines, even a landfill. All 10 were deep into something big. And every single ending still doesn't add up. Let's go. Number 1. Frank Olson, the scientist the government apologized for. Start with the one the US government actually apologized for. Frank Olson was a bioweapon scientist at Fort Detrick, and he knew the darkest corners of the CIA's mind control program, MKUltra. In 1953, his own colleagues secretly spiked his drink with LSD. 9 days later, he went out a 13th floor window of a New York hotel at 2 a.m. in his underwear. Official verdict? Suicide. Case closed for 40 years. Then, in 1994, his son had the body dug up. The new exam found blunt force trauma to the skull that a fall couldn't explain. A forensic scientist called it starkly suggestive of homicide. A Manhattan DA opened a murder case. No charges were ever filed. So which is it? Did Frank Olson jump? Or was he thrown? Number 2. Morris Jessup, the Stargazer and the Navy ghost story. Next, an astronomer who got tangled in a Navy ghost story. Morris Jessup was a trained skywatcher who became a famous UFO author in the 50s. Then a stranger buried him in letters about the Philadelphia experiment. The legend that the Navy made a warship vanish. Jessup couldn't let it go. In April 1959, he told a friend he'd finally cracked it. He never made the meeting. That same night, he was found in his car in a Florida park. A hose running from the exhaust into the window, ruled a suicide. And honestly, his books had flopped, his marriage had ended, and friends said he'd talked about it for months. But there was no autopsy, no clear note, and to this day people swear he learned something he was never meant to know. Number 3. Gerald Bull, the man who built Saddam a supergun. This next guy didn't vanish quietly. Someone sent a message. Gerald Bull was maybe the greatest artillery mind alive, a Canadian-American engineer who dreamed of launching satellites with a giant gun. The catch? To fund the dream, he started building that gun, Project Babylon, a supergun, for Saddam Hussein. In early 1990, someone kept breaking into his Brussels apartment. Nothing was ever taken. Things were just rearranged. A warning. On March 22nd, he was shot in the head and neck at his own front door, $20,000 still in his pocket, so robbery was out. It was a textbook assassination, widely pinned on Israel's Mossad. Nobody was ever charged. Build a doomsday weapon for a dictator, and the whole world becomes a suspect. Number 4. Philip Taylor Kramer, the rock star turned missile engineer. Okay, this one still gives me chills. Philip Taylor Kramer went from playing bass in Iron Butterfly to engineering missile guidance systems for the Pentagon, then bleeding-edge data and facial recognition tech. In 1995, he drove to LAX to pick up a colleague, and disappeared. On the way, he called his wife, his old bandmate, everyone he loved, and told them goodbye. His final call was to 911. Then, nothing. For 4 years, police had no clue where he'd gone, until hikers spotted a van at the bottom of a Malibu ravine, with his skeleton still inside. Ruled a probable suicide. But his father went to his grave insisting shadowy people had been threatening his son over his work. So which version do you believe? Number 5. Don Wiley, the virus expert who vanished after September 11th. A Harvard superstar who studied the world's deadliest viruses. Gone in a single night. Don Wiley was one of the planet's top virus researchers working on smallpox, HIV, Ebola, and flu. In November 2001, just 2 months after September 11th, he left a Memphis dinner in great spirits and vanished. His rental car turned up abandoned on a bridge over the Mississippi. Keys still in it. No Don. 5 weeks later, his body surfaced 300 miles downriver. The official ruling? A freak accident. A couple of drinks? A possible seizure, maybe a gust from a passing truck that flipped him over a low guardrail. His brother's reaction was blunt. It is inconceivable. A world expert in bioweapon agents, disappearing right after September 11th, you can see why nobody relaxed. Number 6. Eugene Mallove, the conspiracy that was dead wrong. Here's the one where the conspiracy felt obvious, and turned out completely wrong. Eugene Mallove was an MIT and Harvard-trained scientist who bet his whole career on cold fusion. the free energy idea mainstream physics loved to mock. He even ran a magazine claiming the establishment was suppressing the truth. In 2004, he was beaten to death outside his childhood home. 32 wounds stomped on. Everyone assumed his research had finally gotten him silenced. For years, it looked like a clean cover-up. But the truth was uglier and dumber. Mallove had recently evicted some tenants, and their son and 2 others killed him in an attack staged to look like a robbery. Convictions finally landed a decade later. Sometimes the monster isn't the government. It's the guy you evicted last month. Number 7. Jim Gray, the legend erased without a trace. Now a legend who ended up at the center of the search of a lifetime. His own. Jim Gray basically invented the plumbing behind every modern database. He won computing's highest honor and worked at Microsoft. In January 2007, he sailed out alone past the Golden Gate to scatter his mother's ashes near the Farallon Islands. He never came back. No mayday. No wreckage. Number 8. Bruce Ivins, dead as the FBI closed in. This next death happened right as the FBI was closing the trap. Bruce Ivins was a top anthrax researcher at the Army's Fort Detrick lab. After the 2001 anthrax letters killed 5 people and terrified the country, the FBI spent years and over $100 million, and finally named Ivins as the lone culprit. In July 2008, days before prosecutors planned to charge him, Ivins swallowed a fatal overdose of Tylenol. Case closed, the government said. Except a lot of his colleagues never bought it. The evidence was entirely circumstantial, and later reviews found the FBI's science was seriously flawed. Number 9. John Wheeler III, the weapons expert in a landfill. You will not believe where they found this man. John Jack Wheeler III was a West Point-trained Washington insider who literally wrote a manual on biological and chemical weapons and worked on Air Force cyber warfare. Over New Year's 2010, security cameras caught him wandering Wilmington, Delaware, disoriented, carrying one shoe, telling strangers his briefcase was stolen. Then he vanished. The next morning, his body tumbled out of a garbage truck as it dumped its load at a landfill. He died of blunt force trauma, and police ruled it a homicide. How a chemical weapons expert ended up beaten and buried in commercial trash, nobody can say. The theories run from a nasty neighbor feud all the way to a government hit. Years later, still no answer, still no arrest. Number 10. Shane Todd, the engineer who saw too much. And the last one might be the scariest because it's so recent. Shane Todd was an American engineer working in Singapore on gallium nitride, a semiconductor with serious military uses. He told his family he was being pushed into a project linking his lab to the Chinese tech giant Huawei, that he was being asked to compromise U.S. security, and that he feared for his life. So he quit, booked a flight home to Montana, and started packing his bags. Days before he was set to leave, he was found hanged in his apartment. Singapore ruled it suicide.